Welcome to This Daring Adventure podcast, where we work on bridging the gap between where we are and where we want to be in order to live a bigger and bolder life. In this podcast, we will provide inspiration, tips, and skills you need to make your life the adventure you want it to be. Here's your host, mindset mentor, and life coach, Trista Gurton.
Hey everybody, welcome back to This Daring Adventure. It's been a couple of weeks, I know, but I'm back. So today I wanted to talk a little more about our identity and what happens when things shift in our lives, particularly when the role we have been assuming, playing, inhabiting ends. And I think this affects us all, regardless of our age. But I received a message from a listener who is about to turn 81 and shared something that I think many of us can relate to, regardless. She worked until March of this year, retired, not because she wanted to retire, not because she was ready, but management had changed, staff changed, and like many others, she was let go. And she had worked all her life and was now finding that transition particularly hard. And she very clearly felt that regardless, she still wanted to work, was still quite capable, and still had a lot to contribute. And I love that. But underneath that all, she was really saying that she's still here, she's still very capable, she still has a lot to offer. And although others had told her just to sit back and relax, she wasn't ready to do that. And you know what? She might never be. Some people would love that. It's all they want to do. They want to be lazy. They don't want to do anything. Great. Some people have spent years dreaming about retirement. But for others, being told to sit back and relax feels less like freedom and more like disappearance. And as I read her message, I realized that this really isn't a retirement problem. It's an identity problem. And identity problems come in all shapes and sizes, and they don't care how old you are. I've coached women in their 40s whose children have left home and suddenly they don't know who they were anymore. I've coached women after divorce, after layoffs, career changes, relationships and caregiving responsibilities and businesses closed, all different circumstances. But it's essentially the same question that pops up is, who am I now? And we tend to think, okay, what am I going to do? But really, it's who are you now? Who do you want to become? Because there's that shift. I think we get caught up in thinking about the action and what we need to do, whereas a focus on who we are becoming, who we want to be intentionally and deliberately isn't as much as the focus. Because here's what happens. We spend years, sometimes decades, building an identity and a life around a role. I'm the wife, I'm the mother, I'm the executive, I'm the manager, I'm the nurse, I'm the teacher, I'm the caregiver, I'm the employee. And one day, life changes, as it will. The role ends. And if we're not careful, we start believing that we ended too. But that's never true. The role ended, not you. The title ended, not you. The chapter ended, not you. And this is where so many people get stuck. They think they're grieving the job. They think they're grieving retirement. They're grieving the relationship, whatever it is. But often what they're really grieving is who they got to be. In this case, job gave her structure, gave her routine, gave her certainty, gave her a place to go, gave her an opportunity to contribute, to learn, to grow, to be a part of a team, to lead, people to see, problems to solve, contributions to make, evidence that they mattered. And when that's gone, it will feel very disorienting because now there's a giant empty space where that identity used to live. And the human brain hates empty space. And so this is very normal because the brain immediately wants to make meaning. And often what that meaning sounds like is, I'm not useful anymore. Nobody needs me. My best years are behind me. It's too late for me. I had my chance. I'm too old now. But here's what I want you to understand. Those are just thoughts. They are not facts. This is how your brain is interpreting that particular circumstance. In this case, the retirement. And they feel true because, well, we've been conditioned to think that way. It's very normal. It's very common. And we've repeated it so many times. But they're still just thoughts. And if you believe them, if you take them on, if you let them drive your feelings and your actions, then you will create a life that feels smaller than the one that's available to you. And you will tell yourself, it's because of the retirement. It's because I'm 81. It's because the relationship has ended. It's because the children have left home. One of the things I find fascinating is how our culture talks about aging. And you don't have to go very far to find it. And while there is a slight shift towards something more empowering, oftentimes we are given this story that as we get older, we become less visible, less ambitious, less curious, less engaged, as though aging means slowly withdrawing from life. But I don't think that has to be true. There are many 80-year-olds out there with more life and more alive than some 30-year-olds. And I have met people in their 70s starting businesses, learning languages, traveling, volunteering, mentoring, creating, writing, building community, falling in love, and living fully. Not because they're pretending to be younger, but because they understand something important, that being alive and being useful are not the same thing as being employed. Think about that. Being alive and being useful are not the same thing as having a job. And many of us will spend decades confusing the two. We believe that our contribution comes from our position, comes from our job, comes from our paycheck, comes from that respect and that recognition. But contribution comes from who we are. Your wisdom doesn't retire. Your experience doesn't retire. Your compassion, your curiosity doesn't retire. Your ability to make a difference in someone's life doesn't retire. Your ability to grow and to learn and to evolve doesn't retire. Those things stay available to you. The challenge is learning how to access them in a new chapter. And it's a transition. It might take time. It will take some effort. It will take some curiosity. It will take the ability to live in that uncertainty for a while and figure things out as you go and be persistent in taking small action, asking the questions, and having fun figuring it out. And if you can do that, and that's your focus, and that's your intention, and you're deliberate in that, it can change everything. And this is where coaching can become so powerful because most people are asking the wrong questions, right? We're asking ourselves, what do I do now? But I think there's a better question. It's who do I want to become now? Because when you ask, what do I do now? Your brain goes blank. And it defaults to, there's nothing I can do. This is a problem. We can't solve for this. But when you ask, who do I want to become? Something will shift. It opens you up to the possibilities. And maybe you want to become someone who mentors young people. Maybe you become someone who finally writes the stories you've been carrying around your whole life. Maybe you become someone who travels or learns or teaches or volunteers or creates or connects. The specific answer matters less than the process because the process is about reclaiming authorship. This is where your power is. For most of our lives, someone else handed us our role, and oftentimes we fell into it by default. We're given it by a company, a family, society. But now the opportunity is different and you get to decide. And I think that sounds really exciting. And yeah, it can be terrifying because freedom is uncomfortable. Uncertainty is uncomfortable. But nobody tells us that part. People talk about freedom like it's automatically wonderful. But freedom means responsibility. It means uncertainty. It means nobody is handing you that script anymore. So yeah, it's going to take you a bit to find your feet. You have to write it yourself. And that's why exactly so many people feel lost during these transitions. Not because they're incapable, but because they're standing in front of a blank page. And your brain doesn't like that. It feels intimidating. But what if you focus on how exciting it can be? Because a blank page means possibility. And I want to offer you something today. If you're in a chapter you didn't choose, you lost a relationship, a job, a version of yourself, stop asking what you're losing. Start asking what this chapter is making possible. What if this isn't the end of your contribution? What if this is simply a different expression of it? What if this chapter isn't about proving your value? What if it's about discovering that your value was never dependent on a role in the first place? That is the work. That is the shift, and that is the freedom. And to the lovely listener who wrote to me from Dubai, happy birthday. 81 years old. That's a remarkable life. And I want you to know something. I don't think you're lost. I think you're standing at the beginning of a chapter you never expected. And because you didn't choose it, it's harder. I understand that. And most of us, or many of us, have been there. Life makes a decision before we're ready. A door closes before we've chosen to walk away. A chapter ends before we're finished reading it. But that doesn't mean there isn't another chapter waiting. Your job ended. Your usefulness didn't. Your role changed. Your value didn't. A chapter closed, but your life did not. And maybe that's the question I want to leave all of us with today. Not what do I do now, but who do I want to become next? Because as long as you're alive, that's the question that matters. And as long as that question matters, your story isn't over. Not even close. So keep going. Thanks everybody for listening. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.